The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
Kyle, what the just happened?
Are you serious, man? Do we really have to do this? Bro, I want to punch a... Oh. It's all good, though. Go Canucks, go. Let's talk about it. I'm Locked On Canucks.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, co-host of Locked On Canucks and also a Canucks writer over at Daily Hive Vancouver. And yeah, I had the pleasure of doing the recap on this wacky, wild, crazy, outrageous game. Unbelievable stuff between the Canucks and the Wild. We'll get into it, but before we do that, we got to thank you for tuning into Locked On Canucks because it is your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. If you haven't done so already, make sure you go subscribe or follow us for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. I also got to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Well, I'll tell you what, man. An 11 a.m. game here on a day off on the West Coast. Some people might have been sleeping at the beginning of the game, but no one was sleeping by the end of it. A 10-7 loss for the Vancouver Canucks against the Minnesota Wild.
What?
You know, Kyle, we're going to talk about whether or not we should be concerned about this game. I know we both have our thoughts. We'll also talk about the Jets-Canucks game from the weekend because that was a playoff-like tilt on Saturday night. So we'll get into the last two games and talk about how concerned we are about specific aspects of the Canucks right now.
I'm not concerned, okay? By the way, I'm not concerned. We're not starting off the episode only saying the bad things or you know, spewing pessimism, right? Because 2 straight regular losses, the world is collapsing. Oh my God, there's an earthquake, blah, blah. Dude, I'm not concerned. Anyways, Trevor, continue with the intro, man. I just have to do that, okay? Because I'm not concerned.
Well, there we go. And that's a wrap on today's episode of Locked On Canucks. No, honestly, man, this is one of the craziest games I've seen in a long time. Based on my research, it was the second most combined goals in a Canuck game ever. The only time that I can find that there was more goals in the Canucks game was back in 1983, ironically against Minnesota when they were the North Stars, when the Canucks lost 10-9. So many crazy, weird anomalies about this game. Let's get into it. But before we do that, let me introduce someone who is cool as a cucumber, man, despite all the chaos. Kyle Bowden, what's going on, brother?
I am cool as a cucumber, but bro, I feel as if I'm on fire. You know, I feel intense. I feel a little tense as well. I also feel something in my stomach. I feel a little gutted. Okay, losing 2 straight hurts. Losing the way we lost both games because those third periods felt so different and were so different, but delivered kind of the same blow. You kind of felt empty. You kind of felt as if we left some points on the table. And the truth is the Vancouver Canucks left anywhere from like 3 to 4 points on the table in the last 2 games. And it's not as if we need the points, but this team matters again. And we're hockey fans, okay? Trevor, off the top, you saying, oh, you might have been sleeping. You might have, no, dude, no Canucks fan is sleeping these days, okay? On the West Coast, the best coast, all across the globe, they're watching this team at any point in which they are playing, okay? Everyone was watching that game. And yeah, Trevor, that was, what was that? What was that? I feel as if it was the introduction for me personally into, again, learning how to deal with losses because you're going to lose games. You're not going 16-0 in the playoffs. And today feels like we kind of lost the playoff game the way I'm feeling, you know, because it feels empty right now.
Yeah, you know what? I let off with the, are we concerned? Because, you know, you got to tease a bit when you open an episode of a podcast, right? This is Locked On Canucks, your team every day. Got to have a bit of a tease, but I'm telling you, I'm not concerned about this loss. And I'm not really concerned about the Jets loss, although we'll get to that a little bit later on. I think there is arguably more cause for concern with the Jets loss than this Wild loss. Because
thank you for the optimism.
With this game against the Wild, it was a ton of weird stuff happening, right?
Weird.
You know, 4 5-on-3s, 2 pucks going off of skates, 1 puck goes off of Ian Cole. One of the goals on those 5-on-3 probably should have been blown down by the refs.
Oh, I mean, my God.
You know, the refs, it's maybe it'll be conspiracy theory o'clock here, but you know, the refs with a really soft call on Lindholm in the first period gets called for roughing just for bumping a guy by the bench. Like one of the most atrocious calls I've ever seen. And, this is coming not even 48 hours after Tyler Myers called out the referees during Saturday night's loss to the Jets. So you have that weird call in the first. I don't really fault the Canucks for
that wasn't a weird call.
They took
I'm
in
sorry
that
to cut
game.
you off, bro. That's not a weird call. That's not a weird call. That was the refs taking it personal, man. And, fast forward to what happened in the third period and that scramble. Okay, maybe it was a 50-50 thing, right? I didn't see the overhead view like closely. I didn't use my magnifying glass, you know what I'm saying? But I feel as if most of the time that gets blown dead. It was like that for a long time. And as a fan, from my point of view, again, I couldn't see the puck. I couldn't see it at all. And when you see the replay, it does kind of seem like it was under DeSmith for quite a long time. Well, long enough for there to possibly be a whistle. But there was no way it was possibly going to happen where the refs are going to look out for the Canucks because of what Tyler Myers said after that Jets game, okay? They took it personal, bro. It's the truth. It's the truth. We were playing two teams today. Now, we made it easy for them, too, to make a lot of calls. We were extremely disciplined, undisciplined, okay? Teddy Bluger, I feel as if he's been taking a couple penalties similar to that. Just undisciplined with the stick. Like, don't make it harder for us, okay? And then JT Miller, dude, it was something that didn't have to happen. Like, you didn't have a lot of pressure on you, and there you are sailing the puck over the glass. Like, right after we killed our third, not even killed it, but after we just went off killing a 5-on-3, well, trying to, for the third time in the game. It was just, again, easy for the officials to make a lot of calls, but at the same time, they were definitely against us. We were playing two teams again today that wanted to beat us.
Yeah, look at you. You just sounded like Tyler Myers right there, using his words exactly when he said that we're battling two teams after the loss to the Jets on Saturday. Even this game even had my daughter rattled, man. Honestly,
Dude,
it's
agreed.
It's crazy stuff. But yeah, the Canucks in general, like you said, Kyle, a lot of those penalties were penalties. The Pettersson one in between all that. What it was 4 penalties in less than 3 minutes with Zadorov, Miller, Pettersson, and Bluger, right?
Yeah.
And that Pettersson one too is like it was a blatant hook right in the slot. You could argue he's trying to save a goal, but also Hronek was closer to the guy, so you gotta have the wherewithal to know you're shorthanded in that situation. If you're gonna take a penalty, it's got to be a good one. In that one, again, I don't know if PD needed to take that. So
they were even undisciplined with their focus, man, because they were definitely looking towards the third period. Minnesota just scored. They just scored. There's like 8 seconds left, 10 seconds left, or whatever. I think. The fancy stats, the data would say that Minnesota's not going to score again. They're probably not going to get a shot again. Let's go to the third period. He was sailing, okay? And he takes a hook and penalty. It's just, again, undisciplined across the board. And, again, that's the biggest reason why we lost today, okay? Full accountability, okay? We're a first-place team. We're not going to blame the referees because, again, we made it easy for them. Just undisciplined. But prior to Colorado, I think it's a good thing. Anyways, Beggsy, continue to talk about this Wild game.
Yeah, I mean, there was some stuff that happened in this game that you just don't see very often, right? So this is the first time in 34 years that the Canucks have given up 10 goals in a game. The last time they gave up 10 goals in a game was back on Valentine's Day, 1990, against the Montreal Canadiens. Kyle, you and I weren't born then, and only 2 guys on the Canucks roster were even born then, and that was Tyler Myers and Ian Cole. 3 hat tricks in the game. JT Miller gets one, obviously. Joel Eriksson Ek, future Canuck Joel Eriksson Ek? Yeah, probably not. Joel Eriksson Ek and Kirill Kaprizov both get hat tricks for the Wild. That was the first time in 32 years that 3 players had recorded hat tricks in the same game. And even when it happened 32 years ago, it was 3 guys on the Kings getting hat tricks against the San Jose Sharks in an 11-4 win. So again, stuff happened in this game that you just not only do not see every day, but it happens maybe once every 20, 30, 40 years, right? So some unreal stuff today. And, at the end of the day, I'm not terribly concerned. I think you saw, Miller get back on track today, Pettersson get back on track a bit. Maybe we'll talk about it later if there's cause for concern with that top 6. But at least they were putting the puck in the net today. And, maybe Sportsnet stats jinx the Canucks. They tweeted out after Miller and Pettersson have both scored that the Canucks are 8-0-1 when both Miller and Pettersson score a goal this season. And of course, they go on to lose this game. This is also the first time all season the Canucks had lost in regulation when leading after 2 periods. So again, I think they're 32-1-4 if I'm not mistaken. So again, it's there's maybe some things to be concerned about, but at the end of the day, this is still the best team in the NHL. They've had such a good ride, and even the best teams in the NHL go through some weird stretches. And you could argue this is a weird stretch right now with the 2 back-to-back regulation losses. The power play
Dude, you
going on
cannot
goal
make an
scored the last
argument that
2
this is a
years.
real this is a weird stretch, bro. They've lost 3 games in regulation in 19 games. Like, I'm not assuming the worst. This is just what it is. Like, they just lost another game that they could have won, and it's been 2 straight games like that. And I don't know. I'm not concerned or in a position to say like, oh, this may be a weird stretch because 3 regulation losses in 19 games. I know they've lost in obscure ways in those third periods, but something tells me that they're going to be fine. And a big reason why I'm saying that, and it's something in which JT Miller is saying as well, is the fact that they're playing a lot better 5-on-5. Like we talked about those top 2 lines needing to do that, on Friday. We spent a lot of time talking about that. And I do think even in those 2 losses, the top 6 has taken large strides 5-on-5. And the Canucks have been the way better team. I'll use the word way better team 5-on-5 in their last 2 losses.
Yeah, when I say weird stretch, I don't necessarily mean like, oh, the Canucks are losing, the sky is falling, but just things like, again, the Canucks power play going, 6 games without scoring a goal. It was, they hadn't had a stretch like that in 3 years. You go back to before the All-Star break. They have that, they're trailing the Blues. They come back, get it to overtime, they lose. Against the Jackets, they're down by 3. They come back, they win in overtime.
Oh, shit.
They have some great games on the road trip against Carolina, stinker in Boston. Like, it has just been a weird stretch of hockey. It's not like the Canucks have lost a bunch of games in a row, but this has been a wacky stretch of hockey for the Vancouver Canucks, keeping things interesting in the dog days of the season, right? We've talked about it time and time again, January, February, often the dog days of the NHL season.
Yeah.
And, the Canucks, whether they win or lose, there's no dull nights right now if you're a Canucks fan.
Yeah, man. And, you just brought up that Carolina game. I'm trying to keep it optimistic as well, but that third period against Carolina, that was pretty bad too. And if Demko's not standing on his head, we're not beating Carolina. They were all over us. In fact, Carolina in that third period was more impressive than the Wild were, or actually the Wild ones. They scored, how many goals they scored in the third period? I'm just talking now. Did they score 18 goals in the third period? 7 goals.
18.
The Minnesota Wild scored 8 goals. 8 goals in the final 21 and a half minutes of play. It felt like that. I don't even think I'm lying about that. They just kept scoring and kept scoring and kept scoring, and we kept taking penalty after penalty after penalty. It is what it is. I will give the Wild a little bit of credit too. Like, it wasn't just the Ravs or even us being undisciplined. Like, the fact that they put a lot of pressure on us when we went up 5-2, aka the second time by 3 goals in the second period, the fact that they were able to finish that period strong, that gave them life. They gave them life, man. I don't know what Tocchet said after the game. Do you have a quote? Like, I'm curious, because don't you think this is an instance where, I know they got a game tomorrow, so they can't go that hard in the paint, like they can't party or nothing, but it's a quick talk and a possible outing with the boys, or just like a good flight to Colorado. You know what I'm saying? The music is bumping. I heard these guys play Tupac and Biggie right now. That's like their ish right now. Okay. I don't feel as if Tocchet is being authoritative or pressing a different button or a loud button, or Quinn Hughes. He's not doing that in this instance, right? It's all good. Again, the Canucks will be fine. Do you get that?
Yeah, I mean, like, you heard Miller after the game say 5-on-5. He thinks the Canucks played well. I mean, you look at the shots chances; they're pretty much even. One thing that's concerned me about the Canucks, we'll get into it, is third periods. I think we'll talk about that a little later in the episode. But overall, yeah, JT Miller's not going out there and saying our 5-on-5 game was good if Tocchet has just ripped him for it, right? So
Yeah.
Again, lots of weird stuff happened in the Wild game.
Weird.
The Canucks lose 10-7, one of the wildest games you'll ever see. Was it more entertaining than the Canucks and the Jets on Saturday night? It was entertaining in a different way, but that Canucks-Jets game, it packed a punch as well, both figuratively and literally. Let's talk about it on the other side. And more importantly, how do the Canucks stack up against the best teams in the Western Conference after going down and losing to the Jets on Saturday night? We'll get to that in segment 2. Before we do that, I got to shout out Camino Consulting. How would you like to get to know someone better in an hour than you would in a year? Understanding one another better prevents small misunderstandings from becoming big, ongoing fights. After providing more than 20 years of service to small and mid-sized businesses, helping management groups navigate conflict and onboarding new employees, Camino is offering a digital seminar for families and couples. And you know what that means? You could do it at home, having a free digital seminar. You could be wearing no pants and still improving your relationship with your coworkers and your family, okay? Hey, did your Valentine's Day gift of tickets to the game not go over as well as you'd hoped? Did you spend $600 on Canucks tickets only to know that your significant other cheers for the Calgary Flames? Holy moly.
Whoa.
Get the couples and family online seminar for 25% off for the month of February using the discount code Locked On. Again, that is discount code Locked On for 25% off for the rest of the month at CaminoConsulting.ca, or mention Locked On when reaching out for a business seminar and receive the first 5 profiles for free.
Okay. We back on this episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Kyle Bowen. That right there is Trevor Beggs. And it's family day, man. And you are starting to feel like my family. And it's going to be the case. We are going to become family come April, because things are getting real and things feel real. Again, losing 2 straight games in regulation, emotional losses, emotional third periods for way different reasons. But nonetheless, it feels really emotional. You may feel a little gutted on this Monday afternoon. And that's, again, only because hockey matters. Again, I feel alive. Okay. So in ways, I don't know if this is the 30 and a half-year-old me, aka the Deepak Chopra reader, just saying things, but I'm grateful for this loss today. Okay. This loss is a talk it lesson, right? What do they call it? Not rocket science. It's talk it science. And I think he loves losses like these.
Loves losses like that is probably a bit of a strong word, but
Yeah, a few losses like these. Very few.
I'll say in general, I bet Taka was probably more entertained by the game against the Jets on Saturday, where that game, for all the chaos that the Canucks Wild game had, the Canucks and Jets game on Saturday had the feelings of a playoff game, right? Like if you're a Canucks fan, or if you're a casual fan, or just got into the Canucks the past few years, and you're not exactly sure what playoff hockey feels like, it feels a little bit like Saturday night, right? An intense 2-2 game, the Canucks throwing the body everywhere. The Jets also throwing the body, arguably more so than the Canucks. And yeah, that one didn't go in the Canucks' favor. Cal, maybe I'll ask you, my big concern with the Canucks on Saturday night is I feel like they got away from their game a bit. You like the big physical brand of hockey, but I felt like the Canucks were trying to play the Jet style of hockey in that game, and they got burned for it in the third period. Does that give you any cause for concern moving forward? Like, do you see the same thing that I see? Are the Canucks, do they need to stick to more of their own game? Or are you happy with them trying to catch up to the Jets and lay out the body?
I'm happy, man. I'm happy, bro. It's big boy hockey, and it's also game 50 something, when you're pulling off those things. It's not the playoffs. It's not game 4. It's not game 3. It's all good. Lay the body, okay? I'm not going to front, bro. When was it? It wasn't Scheifele. It was who scored the third goal for Winnipeg?
So Velarde scored the third goal after Juleson pinched and rocked Scheifele. It was a great hit.
One of the hits of the year. If there's not a goal 2 seconds after, bro, that highlight is being shown everywhere. And shout out to Noah Juleson for having the balls to even do that. Bro, you know what's going to happen, okay? If the Jets don't score there or even get the puck there for, a chance to go on a 2-on-1, they're probably jumping Noah Juleson. Anytime a player steps up like that to an elite player, like one of the best players on your team, you're asking for it. And the Canucks, again, the question is should they have played their own game, blah, blah, blah. Dude, I'm so proud of the Vancouver Canucks just manning up and embracing the physicality. And you could argue, maybe the Jets were a bit more physical, but we laid the hardest hit. Like, we went out there. And Juleson risked his life for a moment, okay? He was having the game of his life. I liked it, man. And, bro, we gotta assume that the lesson is going to be learned, man. They have a lot of big games coming up. Things are going to get emotional. They're going to be able to do things a little differently, right? Maybe stay more composed and all that jazz. But at the end of the day, I'm proud of them manning up, okay? And I think Tocchet, he lost when I think he said something similar to what I'm saying, right? After that game, he wasn't disappointed. He was proud of the boys for, again, embracing that style of hockey, it being more gritty, it being more intense, every shift kind of ending with the scrum. It was, like you said, playoff-like.
Yeah, 100%. And, I guess one of the other things about that game, too, was the goaltending duel, right? Between Hellebuck and Demko. I think both goalies had their moments for sure, but in that game, Hellebuck showed why, he's the best goaltender in the NHL. And I think there's a stat that Hellebuck had gone 30-plus games with allowing 3 goals or less. Yeah. And again, that was on a night where Demko gave up 4. So, I look at that Jets team, and I don't think they're better than the Canucks, but they have the best goaltender in the league. And, when that happens, it seems like anything is possible. Mind you, that being said,
the Canucks have one of the best goalies in the league too. Like I think you were about to
I
say
think they
that
have
as
the second
well.
best goalie in the league, right?
And bro,
second best goalie in the league.
Okay. It's kind of weird to say this because the Canucks just allowed, 10 goals, but quote unquote 8 goals today, right? But they've been better defensively. That being said, they're definitely one of the worst teams on 2-on-1s in the league. No, that's the truth, isn't that? Like I think when the Canucks settle in, I know they got a lot of travel and whatnot. Just a weird schedule for the Canucks again. Got one of the strangest schedules of all time this season. But it's going to settle down. And then when it settles down, this team is going to have more practice time. Again, this is me assuming the best, being Deepak Chopra-like, but lessons, more practice, more patience. There's still a lot of room for this team to get better. And even in that Jets game, man, they stepped up physically. And again, they were the better team 5-on-5. Playing Haliburton.
Yeah, and there was, again, lots of good to take away from that game. And I do want to see the Canucks and Jets play again, and which they're going to do.
I can't wait.
Ironically, the last game of the season is Canucks and Jets. Now, I don't know how much is going to matter at that point. Maybe it's a battle for top spot in the West, man. Who knows? Hopefully there's some drama at that point as well. But, I again, looking at, I'll put it this way. Let's look at the top 5 teams in the West after the Canucks: the Stars, the Avalanche, the Jets, the Knights, and the Oilers. I know what you're going to say. No, I'm not scared to anybody, blah, blah, blah. But which of those 5 teams worries you the most in terms of a matchup against the Canucks in the playoffs?
I got to combine 2 teams because I don't like answering this question. But I also don't, if I got to answer it because you're holding a gun to my head, I'm definitely going to say Colorado and Vegas because they're champions, bro. They're on a different level. I'm not going to doubt them. Okay. But I'm also just, am I looking at this wrong? Do you think I am being way too optimistic, being the nice guy? Because for a team that's already played this many games in the regular season and for a team to prove me wrong so many times already, it's just really hard for me to be concerned. Another little thing that I liked about the Canucks, not to draw back to the Minnesota Wild game too much, but we're talking about a team that just let in 5 goals in 5 minutes to start a third period. They're down by 3 goals against Minnesota. They got to play Colorado tomorrow, okay? And they're up in the standings. Vancouver doesn't need this game, quote unquote, right? But there they were fighting in the third period to make it close, to make it a 1-goal game. When I see moments like that, I'm like, yo, they got it. They understand. They're pros. Things happen, but they're still fighting, and I believe in a team like that.
Look at you, Kyle. You've come a long ways, man. Forever the optimist, not getting too mad about losses. You've come a long ways, buddy. I'm proud of you. And you got a right to be happy, man. Again, the Canucks first overall in the NHL. I think to end off the show, let's maybe touch on a couple other things like the PK, the top 6. Should Arshdeep Bains play tomorrow night? A couple things like that. Can I ask
you one more question? Because it's in my mind. I might forget it, okay? 420 somewhere. You talk about the play style. You talk about, did the Canucks play like the Jets? And is that a concern? They just stick to their own game. And, you may ask similar questions when you play the Oilers, Colorado. We're going to play them tomorrow, Vegas, blah, blah, blah. Like, what is the Canucks recipe to success? Like, what's their style? Because one thing that's sexy about the Canucks and really appealing about the Canucks IMO is unreal coaching staff, a lot of star players, but they've shown that they clearly can beat you in so many different ways. And I know that may sound lucky or just on like an irrational stat to kind of lean on, but they have good players everywhere contributing to, again, those different ways of winning. Like if they have their third line being dominating and doing their thing and providing offense, they got one of the best third lines in hockey that stars Connor Garland. Like that's a possibility. That's not getting lucky. Oh, you want to get goaltended? Okay, we got Thatcher Demko. It's not like it's Frederick Anderson goaltending you, it's Thatcher Demko. Okay, that could work. Oh, you want the top 6 to burn you? They'll do it. Oh, you want Quinn Hughes to win a game? He'll do it. I just think, I don't know what the Canucks style of game is. I just think they have the recipe to win a lot of games. Does it translate to playoff success? It will. It will.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just them being hounds on the puck, right? It does feel like a Rick Tocchet hockey team, right? One of the biggest puck hounds of all time. Guy was an absolute beast out there. I think the Canucks, again, defensively just do a good job of clogging up the middle of the ice in their own zone. They don't give up a lot of home plate shots. And when the puck's in the zone, they're top half of the league in terms of generating chances. Actually, they're in terms of generating actual shots, they're 7th overall in the NHL at 5-on-5. So I feel like this is a team with talent and a team that's, aggressive in terms of, getting the puck, right? There's flaws in their game for sure. Like, I don't think they're great at necessarily getting into the zone, or maybe their neutral zone play isn't that great, but I just think they're absolute hounds on the puck in the offensive zone. And this roster is so talent rich that when they have the puck, they're able to do some pretty special things with it. So it really is a combination of, the offensive players, not just the stars, but even the secondary guys having a lot of skill, being able to get the puck and being able to get high quality chances. And then in the defensive zone, defend the middle of the ice and let Thatcher Demko stop the rest.
Thank you, man. Again, I asked you that question because I knew I was going to get a deep answer, and you're allowing today to be easier. Okay. Again, today is a day we allow 10 goals to the Minnesota Wild. And this is after, Adam Lowry beats up Phil Giuseppe and leads the Winnipeg Jets partially to a win. Like, we've lost 2 straight regulation losses. It's a weird time in my life, but Begsy, I'm really, really lucky to have you. Okay. Because we get to do this with all the listeners and watchers of the program, and it's therapeutic AF.
Yeah, it's always a good time to be talking to you, and especially to be talking to the people on Locked On Canucks. Let's wrap up the show with a couple quick hits in the concernometer department, and also, should RC Baines, will he and should he play against Colorado Avalanche on Tuesday night? All coming up on the other side. Before any of that, we got to shout out Sleeper. The Canuck fans, we're almost 2/3 the way through the season, and guess what? You still have the best team in the NHL. Hey, you know what? If you want to be the best at something else, make sure you go play some daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is my number one choice for daily fantasy sports, and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you could win, 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you have to do is pick whether studs like Brock Besser, Quinn Hughes, or JT Miller will record more or less than their Sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more in a given game. To win a 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Canucks fans. You could win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability.
Okay, we back on this episode of Locked On Canucks. One love to Sleeper for doing its thing for the program, and one love to Trevor Beggs, man, because as you know, and rightfully so, Trevor Beggs is the second best dad of all time. Family Day, an important day. Family first for Trevor Beggs, but here he is with the fans, and I'm not sure, correct me if I'm wrong, because again, you're a family man, second best dad of the world. I'm not sure if you're here if the Canucks don't lose 2 straight regulation losses to these 2 teams in the Central Division. Like, I think you're here for the people, man.
Yeah, well, let's stick with that answer, man. I will say I also skipped out on Family Day shenanigans with my wife and 2 kids to write about the post game and talk Canucks here on Locked On Canucks. Kyle, I think this is the part where you calm down the people, but I'm gonna talk about a couple things, and you can just tell me whether or not you're concerned about it. Okay? Be a long answer, be a short answer, do whatever. The power play.
Oh yeah, I'm concerned. I'm trying to be optimistic based on that. Like Miller scored a goal on the power play. I was listening to the third period. I drove here, and it was like late in the third period. Did the Canucks, was that Besser goal? It wasn't a power play goal, was it? Because Riccio was talking about Lafferty taking a penalty, and then it not happening, and I was confused to why we got. Anyways, the Canucks power play. It was not a power play goal. So we got that one power play goal with JT Miller from the top of the blue line. Kind of lucky, but a really, really cerebral play by Miller to just, put a lot of weight on that shot and place it where it needed to be. That being said, they had a moment there in the third period, and I know they scored after with the Besser tip, but come on. You just saw Minnesota score 4 goals on the power play or whatever, 3 goals on the power play. You get a chance to pull in within 1. You got all that all-star talent. You guys have been hitting the ice early, on practice to, figure things out, get things going between you 5. And there was a moment right there for something to happen. And what happened? A minute into it, Niels Höglander is already over the bench. So I think we have a right to be concerned, and they got to get it together. You bring up the whole like Winnipeg Jets thing and them playing big boy hockey and blah blah blah. And the Canucks may not want to get into that ordeal. Okay, it's not the Canuck way. Well, if you're going to be able to do that and you want to ignore those things and just draw physicality, you got to be able to burn teams on the power play. And it's been quite a while since the Canucks have been deadly on the power play. And I hate to do this because those games do count, but this team scored a lot of power play goals against San Jose. And they scored a lot
Columbus
of
and
Columbus and
Yeah.
Edmonton when Jeff Skinner couldn't stop anything. So
Yeah.
we're running out of games in quote unquote, right? When it comes to that path to the playoffs for things to kind of figure themselves out, and they got to get it together. Now, again, they're going to be home for a while, to finish off the season. A lot of good practice time. I'm confident though, but they got to get it together. How can you not be concerned? 1 for 56? Come on.
Yeah, power play has been fizzling a little bit recently. Kyle, what about the penalty kill? Are you concerned?
Oh my God. Today was too weird. I can't be concerned. I know Josh was hurt. 2 goals against the Jets, who were really struggling on the power play too. A bunch of 5-on-3s today. Am I concerned? Not yet, because they've proven me wrong. I'm going to give them more time. If McKinnon scores 7 on the power play tomorrow, I'll be concerned. But today was so weird. Like, how do you judge a power play based on the amount of 5-on-3s we gave them? First of all, that first 5-on-3 that we gave them, Lindholm, that shouldn't have been a call. The referees the refs suck. The refs suck. Bro, they got to start having post-game shows, to talk about, press conferences to talk about their performance or something, seriously, because they just suck. And then we had that Miller one too. I'm not concerned.
All right. It's funny. The Canucks penalty kill, when I was doing the post-game write-up, it was 13th overall in the NHL heading into this game. By the end of the game, it had dropped to 22nd overall in the NHL, down from 79.9 to 78.3%.
Oh, man.
A pretty precipitous drop for the Canucks penalty kill, which was on the rise as of late. Kyle, let me ask you one more, and this will tie a bit into the whole Archie Bain scenario. But how's your concern level about the fourth line? I know it's just a fourth line, but Sam Lafferty's gone quiet. Nils Amon, only 7 minutes ice time in this game. Phil DiGiuseppe had a bit of energy when he first came back to the lineup, but he's been pretty quiet both before and after his injury. How concerned are you about the fourth line? And does Archie Bain play his first NHL game against the Avalanche on Tuesday?
He definitely plays. He definitely plays. You lost 2 straight games in regulation. You just gave up 10 to the Minnesota Wild, and it was a team effort why we lost the game. And that's why I'm not singling out these players. But, dude, like PDG and Lafferty didn't do much. They didn't do much today. Now, I thought they were pretty good against the Jets. They were doing their thing. But, again, there's just an option there for Baines to get in. And you're talking about fresh legs, too. It's, again, if PDG and Lafferty, the guys that you're replacing, and Lafferty hasn't really been going for a while, I think it's a risk worth taking, a quote-unquote risk. And just based on that tactic, right? You get fresh blood in there. He's going to have more legs possibly than other guys. Get it done. Get it done. Archie Bains for Surrey. Get it done. And you know what? If he replaces PDG tomorrow, think about this. The Vancouver Canucks will play a game and possibly beat the Colorado Avalanche, one of the most important games of the year, okay? And when they do it, they can look back at the box score of this game and look at the fact that the only Canadians on the Vancouver Canucks during a big win in the regular season against Colorado would be from Surrey. Surrey. Think about that. That is
that is wild.
That is beautiful. That is inspiring. That is what it's all about. I've been saying it for years and years and years and years. Bro, we got to do a better job at making Surrey way less infamous. The future lives there. The future is bright. And one love to those guys and one love to Archie Bains. I think he's getting a chance. Why not? Is that the answer? Come on, you answer this yourself.
Yeah, I don't think it's a given he plays tomorrow night, but I think there's definitely a good chance he plays, right? Second night of a back-to-back. Again, you didn't see much from that fourth line. I will say, I think it was right before the Pettersson goal. They had a shift where they were hemming the Wild in. They changed on the fly. Pettersson goes out and scores. I believe that was the shift. But in general, I think, Lafferty's gone quiet. Nils Amon, I would be open to seeing him move to the wing. I know you want him out there for the PK, although, again, the PK has been great lately, even with him out there. I think there's a world where maybe you put Suter on the fourth line, have Archie Bains on that line too. Like now you're really starting to spread out the offense on all 4 lines, right? You put Bains, the guy like Suter, both the guys are really good puck handlers. So I'm down for some creativity on the fourth line. I sure hope RC Baines plays against the Avalanche tomorrow. A big game for the Canucks. I know we'll talk about it more. We'll talk about it more on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Canucks. That's it for now. Again, hopefully we're previewing the NHL debut of RC Baines for tomorrow night's game here on Locked On Canucks. Kyle, anything you got to say to me or the people before we get out of here?
One love to the people. We didn't get through a lot of comments today. I think it's because I was really using this as therapy. Okay, for real. It was just the truth. Okay, but let's read some of these comments. Okay, Richard, as a coach, I encourage my boys or my guys to keep the refs as spectators. Once they start thinking, they make mistakes. Okay, so you know what? Again, I don't think the Canucks, after what Myers said in the post game of last game, are going to look towards blaming the refs with the media, but also just internally, not looking at the refs as the main reason why they lost against the Wild today. Like, they were undisciplined. They made it pretty easy to get called, for real. Outside of the Lindholm one, they made it easy for the Wild to get a ton of 5-on-3s. And then one last question, warm us up, okay? What are your predictions for tomorrow? I think somebody just left a comment about that. What's going to happen tomorrow, okay? Shout out to Nerf Husky.
Well, I'll say first and foremost from Richard, great comment. Yeah, at the end of the day, I actually blanked on what I was going to say there.
It happens.
But for tomorrow's game, I think we'll talk about it more tomorrow, man. I'm predicting a good one, man. Come on, I'm predicting good. The Canucks are going to lose 3 in a row, man. They haven't lost 3 in a row all season. It won't be easy, but you got Thatcher Demko coming back to lineup. Okay, I remember what I was going to say about Richard's comment. In terms of getting rattled by the refs, I think, not only Myers' comments, but, after the Canucks or the Wild tied the game on that goal that DeSmith seemed to have covered, the Canucks were barking at the refs. And to me, it seemed like they kind of lost their composure and were a bit distracted. And sure enough, the Wild go out there and score 19 seconds later, right? So there's something to be said about, even in frustrating moments when you think the refs are against you, you got to keep your head in the game because, I think the Canucks, got caught going like, what the F is going on?
Okay.
And then that led to the onslaught of goals a bit more too.
Okay. Trevor Beggs, I like it, man. Okay, that's making me think. You're right. These guys got to be more accountable. I know this is the longest outro in Locked On Canucks history, but can I say the last thing here? I saw a tweet. Yeah. I think it was from Irf. He was saying something how Stanley Cup contenders don't allow 7 goals in the third period, right? It's like, dude, come on, man. Come on. Why are you putting that out there? And I did some research, okay? There was one time last year, the Vegas Golden Knights, they lost to the Flames. They let 5 unanswered goals against the Flames. Things happen. And again, Irf, why are you putting the number 7 there if 2 of those goals are empty netters? You know what I'm saying? And that's why Twitter, it's like, come on, let's support the boys. Go Canucks, go. They've been resilient all year. It's all good. I'm not putting that energy out there. I know these guys are going to get it done. I believe in the core. I believe in the pedigree. And, as far as what you just said, I believe that they're taking that route as well. Like, yo, F blaming the refs. Yeah, F the refs, but F blaming the refs. We've been losing these games.
Yeah, 100%. Thankfully, the Canucks have been winning a lot of games this season, and you've been along with us, hopefully, for most of that ride here on Locked On Canucks. Hopefully, you stick around with us for the rest of the ride here throughout the season and the playoffs, man. Oh, man, I get shivers thinking about playoff hockey, man. We don't think about it enough, maybe, that playoff hockey is coming back to Vancouver. Let's go, baby. Stay tuned for all that here on Locked On Canucks. Whether you're an everyday or an occasional listener, a first-time listener, a new subscriber, or you joined us here on the live show on YouTube, we love each and every one of you, your families, and your dogs too. Coming up tomorrow, maybe talk a bit about chemistry in the lineup. Is that an issue? And then, of course, previewing the game against the Colorado Avalanche with potentially RC Baines making his NHL debut. All of that coming up here on Locked On Canucks on a later date. But for now, I'm Trevor Beggs. That guy's Cal Ballin, and you've been listening to Locked On Canucks.